Road, and I'm going to bring up Street Spotter 7 again just so that you get an idea. That is 8th Avenue that you were looking at left to right across your screen. So what we're finding is that there are traffic being stopped everywhere coming into 8th Avenue. If you were on 8th Avenue itself, you can expect it to be completely shut down between 34th and 42nd Street. But 42nd Street itself, that closure is in place at 8th Avenue as well, and we are expecting these closure points to expand instead of getting smaller. So I'm just going to bring this shot down a little bit more for you, just to give you an idea. This is the Port Authority bus terminal itself right in this area, and we are seeing buses coming in and out of the Port Authority bus terminal, not at the current moment, but they are all parked there at the bus terminal. But Heather made a very, very good point. You see people funneling out. Everyone is sort of being pushed to the north here, and that is what we are seeing. If there are people around, they are moving away from the scene. They are moving away from 42nd Street and 8th Avenue, and that is what police are trying to do. They're trying to get these people away from the area, and they're doing it by closing down all of these streets in the general area. So keep it in mind. Heather really made a great point in that even if you get to the area, you are in gridlock conditions, police having a difficult time getting to the scene itself because there is so much traffic being bottlenecked by these massive closures that they have in place. Once you get a little further away from the scene, you'll see more pedestrian traffic, but they are really doing what they can, and we are expecting that they are going to expand out the radius of the closures to facilitate police being able to get to where they need to go. Now, Port Authority has an entire plan in place for situations like this, and there is a whole formula that they use to figure out what streets need to be closed in order to be able to get the police and fire department to where they need to be. It doesn't make sense to the layman and to the person who normally travels through the area, but they really have a plan in place, and sometimes these closures put you extremely far away from the scene. All of that done so that they can get to where they need to be. Once again, worth reiterating, everything in the subways is bypassing the Times Square station. That includes the N, Q, R, S, and W trains, along with the 1, 2, 3, and 7. The A, C, and E is affected because the shuttle service is not operating either. So keep all of this in mind. And I'm just going to ask Captain Arthur if we can go back down to the 8th Avenue side so that we can give you a different view of things. We have a little bit of our skid getting in your picture from where we're at. But these are the key points to keep in mind. A lot of fire department, a lot of police activity, and a tremendous amount of ambulances. It looks like they already have a handle on how many injuries there are, but they are still responding to the scene and expected to get a lot worse before it gets any better here. Charlene, back to you.
All right, Shannon, thank you for that. And I know we have been reporting, explosion. We've been using that word, but I do want to emphasize that this is a low-level explosion. This is a pipe bomb, possibly a pipe bomb that was detonated, that police are investigating right now, and we are reporting very few injuries. Obviously, if this was far worse, we would be reporting something different. So that is the one silver lining in all of this. We do want to report that the mayor has been briefed on this incident in Midtown, and the NYPD, FDNY, and first responders are there on the scene as we speak. And as you can see from this video, lots and lots of people, and police are having a hard time getting to that area, and they're having a hard time clearing the area of all these people because, again, this is Times Square. This is where you find the crowds. NYPD is actually, in fact, calling for a level 3 mobilization for crowd control. So far, if I can just rehash just what we know in terms of the suspect, all we know right now is that one person has been detained and possibly is also injured as a result of all of this. Obviously, we're going to get some more information for you, but right now the issue for police is getting to the scene, being able to investigate this further, clearing out that area. There's a lot of closures as a result of this, trains bypassing this area. We do have Kimberly. She is on the phone joining us right now. Kimberly, what can you tell us?
Well, Charlene, I'm at the corner of 41st and 8th Avenue. I'm right looking at Port Authority. This whole stretch of 8th Avenue is shut down. We have the NYPD, we have the bomb squad here, we have ESU, we have gentlemen and ladies from the FBI are here. People are still walking in this area, although they're trying to push everybody east to 7th Avenue. I was able to get to 41st and 10th. That's when it originally got here. And it is shut down over there, too. They're redirecting all the traffic away on 9th Avenue. You can't come across 41st Street. Again, a big showing of NYPD officers. As far as the eye can see out here, down to 34th Street, I believe, and then all the way, of course, north. Heavily armed officers also are, with their weapons, are all around Port Authority. Even though the situation seems to have died down, they're keeping people moving. Again, morning rush, so you have a lot of people still on foot, and the officers are trying to get them away from Port Authority, going east or far west. So that's where I am again. I'm at 41st and 8th Avenue, Shirley.
Yeah, just an impossible place to get around. Thank you, Kimberly. So exactly what do you see? You said that you can see crowds and crowds from as far as the eye can see, emergency personnel, police, and all of that. And talk about the people that you see again, because that is the main issue that police are having. It's the crowd control, right?
It is. And again, a lot of folks heading to work this morning when all of this happened. They're on foot. Officers are directing them. Again, I'm on 41st Street. They're trying to get them east, 7th Avenue, 6th Avenue, away from Port Authority. Same thing on the west side of Port Authority when you're coming up around like 9th Avenue and 10th Avenue. A lot of people on foot. They don't necessarily know what's going on. They're on their cell phones trying to find out what's going on. But again, their morning commute obviously disrupted in a real way this morning. Port Authority, there were some people, interesting, on the back end of Port Authority at, I guess that would have been 9th or 10th Avenue. People were still coming out of Port Authority on the back end over there. That must have been the last of getting folks out. I did see some buses on the ramp as I was walking across 41st Street, still on the helix there. So still, again, trying to clear out this area as much as they can. Well, other than the press, they're trying to get them out. Yeah, well, thank you for sending us this ground video that we're looking at right now. It really, really paints the picture in that area. Yes, NYPD is out here in force. They have the situation under control. Again, ESU, I'm seeing FBI, I'm seeing bomb squad, and of course officers from various precincts in this area. Oh, incredible. Kimberly Richardson on the scene there. Thank you for that, Kim. Okay. We do have an update. We were told that one person so far, we're getting one person so far was injured. This is beyond the person that was arrested for being behind this pipe bomb, and no fatalities so far. So that is a bit of good news for us. We do have, I'm being told, we do have former New York City Police Commissioner Ray Kelly on the phone. And are you there with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, we always look to you when incidents like this happen in New York City. What do you make of this happening in Times Square at the height of the morning commute?
Well, of course, we don't know exactly what happened here, but this is something we always are concerned about. A major transportation hub. Not certain as to whether or not this device was meant to be transported someplace else, or meant to be exploded in the tunnel system. You know, if you go there, you can see a lot of pedestrian tunnels. It's somewhat complex. So it seems to me that probably not a primary target. If somebody was delivering a device to be exploded, this is probably not the location that they ultimately desired to have, an explosion. But you can see the police responded in great numbers, and they're still trying to sort it out. I'm told there is one person in custody, not 100% certain as to what that person supposedly did, but that'll all be sorted out shortly, I'm sure.
And can we just ask you this? Because a lot of people, you hear explosion and it incites a lot of fear, and people are wondering, what is this explosion? The little reports that we're getting is that it was possibly a pipe bomb. This is a low-level explosion, right?
Well, it depends on what was in the pipe. It depends on what type of material. It could be even fertilizer. It can be some sort of chemical that's used. They're usually tamped. They may have some sort of bolts or nuts or something to cause shrapnel. Pipe bombs can be various sizes and certainly very explosive at magnitude. So, we're waiting to sort this out.
Yeah, but the good thing is that we're not hearing of mass casualties, at least.
Absolutely.
That's not
right.
what we're hearing.
Right.
In terms of how quickly police worked, what do you think? I mean, we have this guy, he's in custody, this person.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to note that the Port Authority police are the ones that patrol the Port Authority bus terminal. I'm not certain who apprehended him, but you can see on television the massive response of the NYPD. That's you couldn't see that response in any other city in the country, and probably in the world. It's something that's been built up for years, and I know the department is very proud of its capacity to respond quickly to events like this. They drill for it all the time.
It's absolutely impressive. As being the former police commissioner of this town, talk about the challenges. I mean, something like this happening in Times Square with the crowds that they're dealing with. How tough is it to investigate this?
Well, they have the capacity to investigate it. Certainly let's assume this is a terrorist event. I'm not certain as yet, but let's assume it is. The Joint Terrorism Task Force, that is an entity run by the FBI with NYPD having a significant presence, that will be the investigative arm that will do this investigation. And, they've been involved in this work for many years, and lots of intelligence information that's available, so I have no doubt they're going to get to the bottom of this. But again, there's still a lot of information that we don't know. As you said, there's a major challenge in handling the crowds. The Port Authority bus terminal, as we all know, is a major hub. Buses coming in primarily from New Jersey, and people getting on subways at the sort of the Times Square complex, or the 42nd Street complex. Lots of people, lots of crowd control issues. You can see the police now moving people east on the sidewalks, moving towards the 7th Avenue, which of course is another subway hub as well. So, yeah, it's a major challenge, but I don't think there's any department that's more capable of handling it than the NYPD.
Totally. I'm not sure if you touched on this, but going forward, we have somebody in custody. What are the next steps?
Well, obviously, you want to find out any connectivity this individual has to groups or to other people. Assuming this person has a cell phone that oftentimes provides a lot of information. You want to look at his background or anybody else involved. We don't know if this individual was talking or not. For instance, when we saw the bombing on the bike path, that person, St. Paul, was very talkative. He was proud of what he had done, and we've seen that with other terrorist actors as well. He may be forthcoming. He may not. And again, we still don't know with certainty if this is a terrorist event or not.
Lots more will be becoming abundantly clear as we move forward. Former New York City Police Commissioner Ray Kelly joining us on the phone. Thank you so much for giving us a call.
Thank you.
Thank you. To recap, possibly one minor injury in what we are reporting as a low-level explosion, possibly a pipe bomb at Port Authority. One suspect is being detained, possibly also injured outside of that other injury. We are learning that the mayor has been briefed on the incident here in Midtown, and we also learned that the president was briefed. So we may be hearing from them very shortly. That's the tweet from the mayor. The mayor's been briefed. And then we also see there that the NYPD, FDNY, and first responders, they are the ones who are actively on the scene. Speaking of them, they have called a level 3 mobilization. This is for crowd control because of the challenges that they've been dealing with. And we have had Shannon Sohn. She's been in Newscopter 7 showing us just, what they're dealing with and what's going on there on the ground. Shannon, what are you seeing right now?
Yeah, Shirley, I'm going to take you through all of the closures that we have in this area and all the tremendous amount of police department activity. So Street Spotter 7 helping us out this morning, and you can see 8th Avenue is what you're looking at. It is shut down all the way back at 34th Street, and we're just going to bring you back up 8th Avenue to give you an idea of all the activity on it. And we do have some low clouds that keep coming through the area, so just keep that in mind. It almost looks like it's smoke through the area, but it actually is not. There are some low clouds here. So you are looking down right there at the intersection of 8th Avenue and 42nd Street, and that is where all of your massive amounts of police activity are centered. And as we mentioned, they're trying to move everyone to the east. So you see people moving from left to right across your street, trying to get towards the 7th Avenue subway station. What you need to know for the subways through this area, and once again, we're going to bring up Street Spotter 7 to help you sort of get an idea of what we're looking at through this area. I'm going to see if I can get this to come up for you. It doesn't want to come up right now, but your NQ, R, S, and W trains, everything is bypassing the Times Square station. That also includes your 1, 2, 3, and 7 trains. And keep in mind as well that at the Times Square station there is that shuttle service that takes you to the A, C, and E. So you cannot access that either. Because of all of this activity that has 8th Avenue shut down basically between 34th and 42nd Street, you do see some crosstown traffic coming through, but they are expanding out that grid. As we mentioned, the priority number 1 is getting the police to where they need to be. So now 7th and 9th Avenues are shut down as well. Keep in mind that 42nd Street itself is closed at least between 8th and 9th, but they are expanding that parameter out too. For buses that go into the Port Authority bus terminal, they are being diverted to a parking lot at 10th and 40th. So if people are taking buses in, they're not going to the Port Authority bus terminal, they're going to this parking lot at 10th and 40th. Eventually, it looks like they're going to divert those New Jersey Transit buses to Newark and Secaucus. Hopefully there you can pick up a PATH train. But this is a major headache for the morning commute. Here we are, it is 8:24 in the morning. This has been going on for close to an hour at this point, and we've got massive closures through the area. We've mentioned that their priority is getting the emergency officials to where they need to go, but priority number 2 is getting people away from the area. In addition to for their safety, getting these people away allows the police to do what they need to do. So what we're seeing is if you see any people moving towards the left side of your screen, those are emergency officials. Everyone else is being asked to move to the east. They're moving people towards 7th Avenue if they need to pick up any subways. But this is just a tremendous amount of police department activity, and we'll bring it up for you. You can see this is 8th Avenue. We're looking straight up 8th Avenue. Several blocks that are literally just littered with the fire department and police department and ambulances. And Charlene, as you've been mentioning, we know that there are only a few minor injuries at this point. That is the good news, but the police are still responding in full effect here. You can see so many ambulances on standby just in case. And keep in mind that this isn't over yet. You've got a crowd control issue. You've got a lot of people that are confused, not knowing where to go, not knowing how to get to where they need to be. And all of that needs to be addressed by the police as they continue to deal with the emergency situation that they have on hand. So a lot of confusion through Midtown. If you were planning on driving in today, don't do it. You're going to have trouble getting cabs. A massive amount of closures throughout the Midtown area. It couldn't be worse timing for the morning commute. So expect this to be a bit of a headache for the next few hours, really, before everything starts to settle down. But 8th Avenue completely shut down here. They're expanding these closures. The 8th between 34th and 42nd. They've added in at 7th and 9th Avenue to facilitate the emergency response here. It is just a mess through this area, but police certainly have the situation under control, and now they're just trying to figure out the crowd control and making sure police can get to where they need to get to through all the traffic and the gridlock through the area. Charlene, back to you.
Shannon, thank you. To see such a major transportation hub shut down like that with so much police personnel in that area, it's quite an eerie sight to see. Lots and lots of questions coming out of this breaking news and explosion at Port Authority. We do know that there is possibly one minor injury as a result of this pipe bomb, is what it seems to be. We are learning that one suspect is being detained as a result of this. The mayor, the president have all been briefed about this. We will be bringing you their comments as soon as we get those. In the meantime, we have a team of reporters on the ground. Kimberly Richardson is on the scene there for us still, trying her best to get as close as possible and to get us the latest information. Kimberly?
Well, Charlene, yes, I'm at the corner of 41st Street and 8th Avenue, and I have to tell you, I talked to you about 5 minutes ago, maybe 10 minutes ago. In that 10 minutes, the NYPD and Port Authority Police has successfully cleared out all the folks trying to get to and from work. That was a big concern when I arrived here. People, of course, were on their way to work when all this happened, and just getting as many people away from Port Authority as far east as they could and as far west. And right now they have. There is no more foot traffic I can see 41st and 8th. I'm looking at 40th and 8th. It looks like that's where a lot of the foot traffic is. And if I look north on 8th Avenue, right at 42nd and 8th, that looks like a main staging area for Port Authority Police, the NYPD, the FBI, and of course that is all shut down. Police are out here. They're just, at this point, again, crowd control seems to be under control. I'm looking east on 41st Street, and that's where the police tape is up, and you can't walk west on 44th Street or get near Port Authority. I'm looking at the front of Port Authority right now, the 8th Avenue side. It is locked down. I can see police inside, but it seems to be empty at this point. When I got here about 10 minutes ago, I did see some buses on the Helix. I guess those are the few buses that were still left in Port Authority. I don't see any traffic up there now in terms of coming and going.
Yeah, we're actually just as you're speaking of this, we're just learning that Port Authority bus terminal is temporarily closed. So that's exactly what you're seeing.
Yeah, and when I got here again 10 minutes ago, there were some, I guess, the last few buses that were in the terminal when this happened, and there were some people, still a lot of people, but that has now cleared out, and I don't see any activity in Port Authority except for police. You have NYPD officers walking up 8th Avenue here at 41st Street, and again, 42nd and 8th seems to be one of the main staging areas where you see FDNY, NYPD, Port Authority Police Department, and agents from the FBI. But at this point, it seems, again, everything under control out here. A very serious situation, of course, but in terms of ground traffic and foot traffic, what I'm seeing, it's much more under control than it was, say, even 10 minutes ago. Charlene?
Well, that is good to hear. Thank you for that update.
Yeah,
Kimberly.
Sure.
And police continue their investigation as we speak, and the whole area shut down. As we just said, Port Authority bus terminal temporarily closed as a result. It is a traffic nightmare, and we cannot tell you enough to stay away from this area. We do have Heather. She is standing by with things that you can do to avoid the area.
Well, the best thing for you to do is not even think about commuting into Manhattan this morning. We do have some major issues, obviously, because of the subways, our buses. So I'm going to be repeating myself here, and forgive me, but for those who have not commuted into work yet, to commute into the city, you are going to want to stay put. You've heard Shannon and I say it. Charlene's been saying it. Do not even attempt to commute into Manhattan. So basically, New Jersey Transit trains are going to be diverted to Newark and Secaucus. And then from there, you can make a connection to the PATH. But then you take the PATH train in. And where do you want to go? You want to go to 33rd Street. You think you're going to hop on a subway. Well, the subways, we have so many suspensions. You want to hop in a cab. You can't do that either. I'm sure you could quite possibly find a cab, but if you need to get up into this area, it's going to be virtually impossible because of the gridlock situations. Plus, we need the police to be able to do their jobs. So as long as you avoid the area, they can get the job done that they need to get done in order to make sure that we are all safe. So as far as the subways, 1, 2, 3, NQRW, and 7 trains are bypassing Times Square, 42nd Street, both directions. AC and E trains are bypassing 42nd Street, Port Authority bus terminal both ways. There is no S, so the shuttle, that is suspended. The 42nd Street shuttle is suspended. There is no B service between Bedford Park Boulevard and Brighton Beach in both directions. E trains are stopping along the F line between 36th Street and Queens and West 4th Street, Washington Square, both ways. And these are all because of this police activity that's going on in Times Square. So in addition to that, Port Authority bus terminal evacuated and closed. As far as the buses are concerned, as Shannon was saying, saying they're being diverted to a lot on 10th Avenue and 40th Street. So yeah, you decide to take a bus in, but once you get into Manhattan, where are you going to go from there? Subways, not a choice for you at this point. Cabs, not a choice. So with that bus terminal being evacuated, we have lots of closures as far as the streets are concerned. 8th Avenue closed between 34th and 42nd Street. 42nd Street and 43rd Streets, they're both closed down between 9th and 8th Avenues. And again, New Jersey Transit buses diverting to Newark Penn Station and Secaucus. New Jersey Transit DeCamp trains, they're going to that lot on 10th Avenue and 40th Street. They're diverted once again to Newark and Secaucus. MTA buses, you're going to be dealing with delays. You're going to be dealing with diversions as far as the buses are concerned. If you try to walk around there by foot, you were hearing that they're trying to work on crowd control now. So where are you going to go if you decide to come in and think you can walk to work? So again, your best bet is to try to avoid coming into Manhattan altogether. Buses not going to be available for you as you normally expect them to be. Subways are not going to be available. Cabs, that's not the way you can do it either. So stay home if you can. Avoid the area if you can. If you are where you are already at work, don't try to go down there and see what's happening in that spot. Lots of closures, road closures, and again, our subways that are being diverted and bypassed, the 1, 2, 3, N, Q, R, W7, A, C, E, S, B, E trains, F trains, they are all going to be affected by this. So definitely don't even think about jumping on a subway. That's going to cause a major headache for yourself, and you want to try to avoid that area if you can at all costs. Charlene, I'm going to send it back over to you.
All right, Heather, not mincing words by advising people not to come into Manhattan, period. Even if it's not in the Times Square area, it's just that much of a nightmare. If you're just joining us, I'm Charlene Ellicott, and just to recap the very latest information that we have, the FDNY confirms that one non-life-threatening injury at the scene of today's pipe bomb explosion at 42nd Street and 8th Avenue, Port Authority. So one person so far, non-life-threatening injury. The mayor's spokesperson has reached out to us. They say the mayor is heading to the scene shortly. As you can see from these pictures, it's still very active of a crime scene. NYPD on high alert. They are searching for any related activity at Port Authority on the subway system. Port Authority has been shut down temporarily as a result of this investigation. One person is in custody, apparently injured as well. We do have Shannon Sohn live in Newscopter 7, where they continue to deal with an issue of crowding and just trying to sweep that area. Shannon.
Yeah, absolutely, Charlene. And the picture has really changed tremendously in the last few minutes. We've been on the air showing you this is the intersection of 8th Avenue and 42nd Street. It's really ground zero of where the police department and fire department and ambulances are setting up. They are staging here to sort of fan out their control from this point. But a while back, we were showing you this picture, and you saw a lot of people moving from left to right across your screen, people being pushed from 8th Avenue to the east towards 7th Avenue. Now what you see, this sea of people in with the flashing lights, is almost all police at this point. So it looks like they have gotten most of the people out of the general area of the Port Authority bus terminal, but you can see obviously still a tremendous scene here. Now, one of the things that we've been talking about, obviously we've been telling you what the closures are in this general vicinity, and if you're coming through the area, you know that if something happened at 8th Avenue and 42nd Street, that the streets around it are going to be closed. What you might not know is that the Port Authority has a plan in place for all of these eventualities. They sit down and they talk, and they really plan for what might happen during rush hour, and they have plans in place to close traffic and divert traffic that really does two things. It helps alleviate congestion, although in a situation like this that's almost impossible, but it also facilitates emergency crews getting to the scene. So what I wanted to tell you is the closures that you might not be expecting. 42nd Street obviously shut down, but 14th Street, 23rd Street, 34th Street, they are all subject to closure river to river, and that is to facilitate emergency responses. So again, that is 42nd Street, 14th Street, 23rd, and 34th. Those are all your two-way streets that take you east-west across the city, all subject to complete closure. Obviously, 8th Avenue, you see the emergency activity here at 42nd Street, but we're going to bring you down 8th Avenue and show you what it looks like as you get away from that emergency activity. This is the intersection with 34th Street, and we can bring up Street Spotter 7 to show you that that is exactly where 34th Street comes in. You can see every everyone is being diverted off here. So just look at that intersection alone. Look at the gridlock that's happening at 34th and 8th, and you can see a tremendous amount of people here as well because no one is able to get up towards 42nd Street, but we'll just bring you down to give you an idea of what 8th Avenue looks like. Now, I know we're talking about an explosion here. What you are seeing coming through your picture right now is just low clouds. That is not actually any smoke from the explosion, but we just wanted to show you what you have in store for you if you do decide to drive through this area. Obviously, full closures at 8th Avenue and 34th Street. 42nd Street is completely subject to closure at 7th Avenue, at 8th Avenue, and at 9th Avenue. We also have a closure in place at 57th and 9th. Now, I'm just going to bring up Street Spotter 7 to show you. I know Heather's been showing you this on the map as well, but this is really important. You can see the Port Authority bus terminal there in your map. That is why this is such a bad spot. You've got the N, Q, R, S, 1, 2, 3, and 7 trains all going in there. You've got the shuttle that takes you to the AC and E. So many things are affected by this closure that it is really just tremendously going to affect things here in the Midtown area. Obviously, Heather's been saying it, do not come in. They have now shut down the Port Authority bus terminal to the buses. They are now being parked at a lot at 10th and 40th. And the problem is that once you get there, you've got nowhere to go. It is a sea of people that are being ushered away from that area, and your main streets all look like this with the police and emergency response. Just look at the sheer volume of police officers that are standing through this area. You can see at 42nd Street, we still have some stragglers being moved from the area, but almost all of this at this point is police, is EMS, and fire department officials. So really just a nightmare throughout the morning commute here. And obviously, until they get the situation under control, they are going to have massive street closures through this area. The other thing that needs to be addressed is the fact that there was an explosion inside the subway. So we have to figure out what damage was done and when they will be able to reopen those subways that are currently bypassing the Times Square station in both directions. But massive closures. Keep in mind that you're not going to know what all those closures are. They are systematically and strategically closing down streets to allow for the emergency officials and emergency response teams to do what they need to do. So you may very well see closures in quite unexpected areas, but they have a plan in place and they're trying to get everyone where they need to be and trying to get the crowds to the nearest stations where they can pick up something else. 7th Avenue at 33rd Street, obviously there's a subway station there, but this is really going to be mass chaos throughout the rest of the morning commute. As we've been saying, if you can avoid this Midtown area, or better yet, avoid coming into the city altogether, because this is going to trickle down and affect other areas of the city just because of the emergency response here. Charlene, back to you.
Exactly, Shannon, and the people you were talking about that were being moved towards the east, towards 7th Avenue and east, how do they get home? What do they do? So it's still going to be an issue in terms of them commuting, because you don't see taxis picking anybody up, and obviously there's not a train or a bus that they can take.
Exactly. I mean, it's just going to be a nightmare for everyone who's already made it into the city, as well as them trying to get back home later on this evening. So that is going to be compounding the problem later, because there are people who made it into the city before all of this happened. And you know, the other thing is that it's the Christmas season. This is your holiday season. Hanukkah starts next week. People are coming into the city to go see the Christmas tree, to go see plays. It's a hot topic for people to come in. People are taking days off of work to take a trip into the city, but those people that are taking the day off of work don't necessarily know the city well. They don't know the subway system well. They have a plan in place. They've looked on the computer. They figure out how they're going to get to the Port Authority and exactly what train they have to get on from the Port Authority to get to wherever it is, whatever site in the city they want to go see. So there's the added confusion of a lot of tourists, more than usual. There's always a lot of tourists in New York City, but probably more than usual this time of year, especially. It happened on a Monday, so we have people that are maybe extending their weekend. They either take a Friday or a Monday off to go into the city and see the sights of the city for the holiday season. So you've got people that are coming in that were planning a plan and following a plan, and now their plan has been thwarted, and so there's confusion amongst the people that are already confused in the Times Square area. So with cabs not available to be picked up, with not being able to pick up connections at the Port Authority, this is really really going to be a nightmare. And you've got to consider that you've got the people that made it in and now have to get back home. It is unclear as to how long things are going to be closed down for. You can expect the subway system to be affected for quite a long time. Obviously, once they know that they have control of the situation, they will slowly start to open up the streets. And again, we mentioned that streets unexpected are closed. The 14th, the 23rd, the 34th street closures that are from river to river, those will open first because those are only closed to facilitate the emergency crews coming into the scene. So once they feel they have the upper hand on what's happening here, and they can start to shrink back these closures. So the roadways will start to come back first, likely before the subway system comes back. But this is going to be, again, I've said it before, it's the trickle-down effect. Once something like this happens and things are backed up like this, it is going to take hours for things to return to normal. So it's really something to keep in mind. I know we've been saying it, Heather's been saying it, Shirlene, you've been saying it. Avoid the city altogether if you can. Shirlene, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. And as a byproduct of what we've been telling you, there's overcrowding everywhere. People trying to get somewhere, which is going to be very difficult. We got this picture into us, and this is what Penn Station looks like right now. Some deep overcrowding there as people try to get out of the city. People who might have been coming into the city who now have no way of getting to their final destination. It is a bit of a nightmare, as you can imagine. We're getting some new information about the suspect behind that possible pipe bomb explosion at 42nd Street and 8th Avenue at Port Authority. We are learning that this is a male suspect, a man in his 20s. We're told he is alive, but he is badly hurt. We're learning that he was stripped naked to make sure no other explosives was on his body. This was all part of their investigation, and this is all part of protocol, what they do, and they're searching right now for any secondary devices. We do have a team of reporters on the scene, and we do have our Michelle Charlesworth on the scene there right now with the very latest. Michelle?
Charlene, I'm here at the corner of 42nd and 8th, right here looking at Port Authority. Massive police presence, as you know. There were 8 ambulances here just a little while ago. Now there are 6. One left for an unknown reason. Another one definitely had the suspect inside. You talked about how he was strip searched for another possible device. This is a suspected perpetrator, a man in his 20s. He was hurt in this explosion that happened beneath the city's, of course, main bus station, the Port Authority bus terminal. You know, the maze of the subway tracks that go beneath the bus terminal, the AC and E. I know Shannon was talking about that. I had been on the one train. It stopped at 50th and said there's an incident at 42nd Street. It will not be stopping there. So all of the trains have been diverted. Then I took a cab. Then I ran. There's no foot traffic here. Everything's closed down at 8th and 42nd where I'm standing right now. Again, massive police presence. We haven't been able to go live because some of our equipment is not working. But that ambulance did take off just a few minutes ago, surrounded by NYPD. The word was that was the suspect who had been stripped down to make sure that he did not have anything else on him. If indeed that is the person, he was hurt, taken away in an ambulance. The good news is we have not seen anyone running from the ambulances or to the ambulances with people hurt on gurneys. The gurneys are sitting here next to the ambulances at the ready, but nobody being moved out of here, although the earlier reports were that we heard people, multiple people were hurt. We didn't know how badly. Now we're hearing it may be just a couple of people. So again, we haven't seen anybody taken out of here and put in an ambulance. And that one ambulance that did leave was carrying the suspect who's in his 20s. One pipe bomb going off this morning at the height of rush hour underneath Port Authority. As you know, the maze of subway tunnels down there filled with trains full of commuters. Everybody trying to get to work. That's where I go through every single morning when I'm reporting, heading up to the Upper West Side to go to Channel 7 to work. So I know it well.
Well, Michelle, we knew when you left the building, and it is incredible how you were able to make it there as quickly as you did, given all of the challenges. The next challenge now is getting out of there, and that's the problem a lot of people are having right now.
That's it. There's no foot traffic. There's no, nobody's, the only vehicles that are moving are all mobile command post vehicles, police crime scene units, NYPD, ambulances. There's no foot traffic. You can't get anywhere around here. Everything is backing up, as you know, underground, above ground, with the buses as well. So it's just it's a frozen zone. Subways are just bypassing 42nd Street completely. But things are starting. The good news is things seem to be, they're standing down at this point. There's nothing else happening right now. So I'll keep you posted. But we've been moved back. The NYPD, a fabulous job of making sure that people covering the news stay back and out of harm's way, but can still cover everything. So that's where we are right now at this corner of 42nd and 8th. We're just dealing with some technical difficulties right now, but we'll keep you posted. Also, I'm going live on Facebook Live as much as possible.
Great. Thank you, Michelle.
All right. Thank you.
In terms of the very latest, we do know that Governor Cuomo has made it to the scene there. He sent out a tweet not too long ago, moments ago. There you go. There he says it. I'm at the scene of the incident at the Port Authority bus terminal and have been briefed by law enforcement. He's joined by the mayor, the president, also sending out tweets that they will be within the area or, making comments about today's incident. Again, if I can recap, possibly one minor injury so far in a low-level explosion, possibly a pipe bomb. We believe that the other injury is that of the suspect, who we are learning more information about, that this is a man in his 20s, that he did survive, but he is the second person that was injured. He was checked for other explosives on him, and it looks like they are in the all clear for that. They were also, just as protocol, looking for any secondary devices, which is probably why there is still such a large presence there. But overall, as you heard Michelle say and Kimberly say, it's a little bit more quiet now. The NYPD successfully evacuating that area, moving people towards the east, but as a result of that, people are having a hard time getting out of the city, and it's just definitely not a situation you want to go into. As we've all been reporting, today is the day that you want to avoid going into the city. The city is a nightmare right now as people try to figure out what is going on, as people try to locate loved ones at this time. A lot of people converging on Times Square and in that area because of the timing, the Christmas season. A lot of people wanting to get their shopping done, and so probably more crowds than usual. But we are very grateful to report that this wasn't more serious. Again, looks like one person injured, and then the other person injured is the suspect. So the challenge right now is getting out of the city and getting around, and we do have Heather standing by helping us out as best she can.
Yeah.
Heather.
So Charlene, I was just looking at my MTA app, and I'm sure a lot of people have the app, and it's amazing that all of the service, all of our subway lines, it says service change except for 3 of the lines. So that gives you an idea of what it's like to try to commute into and around Manhattan at this time. So let's talk about the subways. The 1, 2, 3, NQR, W, and 7 trains are bypassing Times Square, 42nd Street. AC and E trains are bypassing 42nd Street, Port Authority bus terminal. The bus terminal has been evacuated. It's closed at this point. There is no 42nd Street shuttle, both directions. The B train service, that's suspended between Bedford Park Boulevard and Brighton Beach. The E trains are stopping along the F line, 36th Street in Queens and West 4th Street in Washington Square. Now, I also was checking out that the M line is dealing with delays and problems as well. They are not running between Delancey, Essex Street and Forest Hills, 71st Avenue. And this is all because of that police investigation that's ongoing at 42nd Street Port Authority bus terminal. So what you want to do is stay put. If you have not left your house at this point, do not even attempt to commute into Manhattan. New Jersey Transit trains, they are being diverted into Hoboken, or they're going to be cross-honoring with PATH. So once you get on a PATH train and you make your way into the city, that's where your trouble really starts. Sure, you can get into Manhattan, but if you normally take a subway, or if you normally decide to hop in a cab, if that's the way you want to go, or even if you want to walk, as Michelle was saying, Michelle Charlesworth, who's live down in the area, it's impossible even to walk to where you want to go. So why even bother doing it if you do not have to? So let's go over some street closures as well. So we have 8th Avenue closed between 34th and 48th Street. And then you also have 42nd Street closed between 8th and 9th. New Jersey Transit buses diverted to Newark Penn Station and Secaucus. New Jersey Transit buses They're disembarking at 42nd and 10th. And again, PATH trains cross-honoring New Jersey Transit buses at Hoboken and Newark. But the problem is taking a PATH train into the city, that's where you're going to have troubles, especially if you're coming into Times Square. Now, if you're going downtown, that's a different situation. So we have 42nd Street, 43rd, 14th Street, 34th Street, 57th Street, 8th, 9th. All of those roads are going to be dealing with closures. Queens Midtown Tunnel inbound. They have one lane closed down, and that is because of police activity. So New Jersey Transit buses and DeCamp buses, they're going to be diverting over to a lot on 10th Avenue and 40th Street. But once again, once you get into that area, that's where you're going to have a hard time trying to commute to where you want to go, especially if you work in Midtown Manhattan. MTA buses, they're being diverted as well. We have a couple of buses that are being diverted around the area. The M20, the M34, the M42, the M104 buses, they are going to be diverted. So again, my advice, Shannon's advice, Charlene's advice, Michelle's advice, Kimberly's advice, do not even attempt to commute into Manhattan at this point, especially if you need to go to Midtown, because it's going to be virtually impossible to get where you want to go if Midtown is part of your plans. Charlene, over to you.
And it's very important advice to continuously reiterate, especially in the height of the Christmas shopping season and the crowds that usually converge in that area. I want to clarify one thing that the police are reporting. They are saying that there was one non-life-threatening injury, and that one non-life-threatening injury was that of the suspect. So that is the only injury that we are reporting to you right now. Obviously, that this could have been a completely different scenario, and we're fortunate that that is not the case. Possibly a pipe bomb exploding at Port Authority. We're going to keep on top of this. We are told that the governor and the mayor will be holding a briefing very soon, because obviously there are a lot of questions as they have a suspect in custody, a man in his 20s. What was his motivation? Does this have anything to do with terrorism? We do not know any of those things, but we are waiting for the mayor and the governor to speak. In the meantime, that part of the city is pretty much shut down, and they're advising people not to venture anywhere near there. We do have Shannon Stone. She's been live in Newscopter 7 for us, bringing us what she's seeing, at least from the perspective of the air. All right, Shannon.
Absolutely, Charlene. And you can see that this situation, it's almost like the energy has deflated out of the situation here a little bit, since they do have that suspect in custody. Again, he was the only one injured. But the one question that has been brought up is, was this his main target? Did he have any secondary devices on him? So they are going to continue to sweep the area, and they are going to make sure that there are no other threats before they clear any of this area. Obviously, they have cleared as many people away from the area as they were able to do, but you are looking down right now at the intersection of 8th Avenue and 42nd Street. Now, this is the hub of the activity. This is where they are staging and really making all their plans for what they need to do here. So this is where the most of the activity is, but they've got 8th Avenue completely shut down for several blocks, and all of the streets around this look very, very similar. Charlene, back to you.
All right.
We're going to go walking.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shannon. We do have Kimberly and Michelle. Michelle, we finally got you on TV. Awesome.
Yeah, here I am. Here I am. Stuff's working. Bomb squad just pulled up. That is the vehicle right behind the police crime scene unit. We're at 42nd Street and 8th Avenue. This is the first we've seen vehicles move around very much ever since the ambulance took off with the suspect, who apparently was strip searched for a second incendiary device, possibly. None was found, as far as we understand. That one suspect was the only person who was hurt. Take you over here. You can see this is 42nd Street and 8th Avenue. As I'll turn you around. You can look over here at Port Authority. This is the bus terminal. People were moved out of here. I got here shortly after this happened. People were walking out pretty calmly. Letting everyone know that there had been an explosion around 7:30. Police believing it might have been a pipe bomb. The only person hurt, the suspect who's in custody, was stripped down. You know, protocol is to look for that second incendiary device, make sure nothing else is going to go on, especially with people rushing to aid people.
But as far as we know, that one explosion is all that happened at 7:30 this morning. Height of rush hour. These are the trains I take in the morning to come in. Step back, Eddie. Eddie, step back. Sorry. But the one suspect was taken away in an ambulance surrounded by NYPD vehicles just a little while ago, maybe 15 minutes ago. And we saw it take off on 42nd Street. I'm trying to see if there's any. We have not seen anyone injured come out of the building. 8 different ambulances here, the one left with the suspect. But if you can see, I don't know, Ed, if you can see across the street, the yellow gurney, a lot of EMTs got out immediately, running, trying to help, but there was no one to help. That is good news, as we are hearing the one person hurt was the suspect who was taken away in the ambulance. So everybody was at the ready, surrounding the area, cordoning off everything, closing everything down, making sure that they could get to anybody who might have been injured. No one has come out. So that, thank goodness, has been a good sign that we've watched through this whole thing. Mayor arrived. We're hearing that there'll be a news conference in about half an hour. Police obviously trying to update us as they can. The most important thing, making sure everyone is safe here and that life can get back to normal. But this is the situation here. I'm going to send it back to you. Just glad that we have such good news that we don't have a bunch of people hurt here today.
No, you're absolutely right. And Michelle, we're getting some new information. We can update it now that there's actually 3 injuries in total, and 3 Port Authority cops who took the suspect into custody. They are among those who were injured. One was sent to Bellevue Hospital, and then 2 civilians had minor injuries that were not near the initial incident, but minor injuries for them. We are learning a little bit more about the suspect, the man who's in custody, who's in his 20s. We believe he does live in Brooklyn. So obviously we're going to find out some more information about him. Governor Cuomo, Mayor de Blasio will be holding a briefing very soon. I'm getting more information coming to my desk right now. That is the tweet from Governor Cuomo, that they are going to be holding a briefing soon. I'm just getting some new information to my desk here that the suspect we are learning is from Bangladesh. He has been in the country for 7 years. He does have an address in Brooklyn, so we do believe he lives in Brooklyn. He is alive. He was severely injured. So, we're going to keep an eye on that to see if he survives. But that's a little background information on the suspect behind that pipe bomb explosion. 3 injuries in total as a result of this. Let's head up to Shannon Sohn. I'm being told she's in Newscopter 7 with another update for us. Shannon.
Yeah, Charlene, and we are up here looking down at the scene again for you. And as you mentioned, we now know there were a few more injuries than we initially thought. They are all minor in nature, but as Michelle has been mentioning, they've got a protocol that they follow looking for secondary incendiary devices, but they've got 8th Avenue completely shut down here. This is the hub of the activity at the intersection with 42nd Street. But we've been telling you all along, we've been telling you what the major closures are through this area, but keep in mind that there are several areas that are subject to closure as they continue with the emergency response. Most of those will quiet down as the evening goes on here, or as the morning goes on, but we just got in that 12th Avenue was subject to closure between 57th and 42nd Street, and that is an example I want to give you. I'm actually going to swing the camera around to that area to show you what I mean. They have these areas subject to closure so that the emergency response can come in and do what they need to do. But you were looking down here at 12th Avenue on the west side, and you can see that they are allowing traffic through right now. That doesn't mean that it will be allowed through at all times. So keep in mind, 12th Avenue now subject to closure as well between 52nd and 42nd Street. Similar to that, 42nd Street obviously has closures on it for a mass amount of its entirety, almost from river to river. But 14th Avenue, 23rd, and 34th Streets all are subject to closure river to river as well. Here is the closure point that you have for you at 8th Avenue. You can see everyone being pushed off at 34th 34th Street. And this picture right here is really indicative of what traffic is going to look like. You've got police shutting things down, standing in the middle of the street, directing traffic one way or the other. But it's a lot of confusion, and you can see that a lot of the pedestrian traffic has been pushed down this far south as well, and they are moving east towards 7th Avenue, trying to pick up subways at 7th Avenue and 33rd Street. But you're looking down, obviously, that is where Penn Station comes in, and you can see so many people there trying to find a way around these closures. We've got some cabs in the picture down here, but again, if you are able to get into a cab, this is what you're going to meet with. Once you get in that cab, you're really not going anywhere because everything is just stopped because of all of the closures through the area. So we've told you about 12th, 14th, 23rd, and 34th Streets. Obviously, 8th Avenue shut down between 34th. They're officially calling the closure through to 42nd Street, but it is actually closed a little bit north of that, and you can, of course, expect full closures on 42nd Street at both 7th, 8th, as well as 9th Avenue. So just something to keep in mind. We're just going to bring up the subway map so that you can get an idea of what subways are affected, and this map really explains to you why this is such a bad area. 42nd Street and the Port Authority bus terminal, Times Square, so many subways come in and out of those areas. So for the Times Square station, NQRS 1, 2, 3, and 7 trains all bypassing that station. Obviously the shuttle, the S train that runs to the Port Authority bus terminal, that is shut down as well. So these are the things that you need to keep in mind. We're going to take that off so that we can come back to your live picture and show you what all of this activity still looks like, because there is just so very much activity. So if you normally travel into the city, you're going to want to avoid it at all costs if you can. We've already been talking about the Port Authority bus terminal. The buses are now being parked at 10th and 40th Street. New Jersey Transit buses are going to Newark and Secaucus, where you can then pick up a PATH train. But again, once you get into the city, you come in on PATH and you are met with mass confusion. Closures throughout the Midtown area. And while the situation is getting more calm, you can see through this area it is just a sea of police department activity, and that is likely not going to change anytime soon. Charlene, back to you.
All right, Shannon, thank you. Thank you for that, Shannon. I want to recap the breaking news that we have been reporting to you. If you're just joining us, I'm Charlene Allicott. This is a possible pipe bomb explosion at Port Authority, this 42nd and 8th Avenue during the height of the morning commute. There is a suspect who is in custody, a man in his 20s. He is one of 3 people that was injured. We believe that this man could be from Brooklyn. Obviously, there's a lot of questions for him. We're learning that he is he's Bangladeshi. He came to this country 7 years ago. But what we are also hearing is that while he is alive, he could die based on his injuries. So they are monitoring that because there are a lot of questions for this man. We do know that the mayor and the governor will be holding a briefing shortly. So we will be staying on top of that, trying to get the very latest information. And we obviously have some reporters on the ground trying to gather information for us as well. We want to send it back outside to Michelle, who is live there on the scene. Michelle?
Charlene, Shannon's right. Things have calmed down quite a bit, but you can see behind me, this is at 42nd and 8th. Everything we can see in every direction is closed down. There's absolutely no foot traffic, only press and police are everywhere. We have the bomb squad over here. This is actually Port Authority behind me. The most congested, this is the heart of the city. This is where the buses come in. This is a maze of subways underneath. Subways have been bypassing Port Authority. We do hear that good news that the one person who was terribly hurt, and this is apparently the suspect, this man in his 20s, apparently from Bangladesh, coming here 7 years ago, apparently from Brooklyn. We did see him taken away in an ambulance on 42nd Street a little while ago. We have been just getting bits and pieces confirmed by police. They are here, but they're doing their job, and they can't always come over and talk to us. We understand we're going to be briefed in just a little while. I know you got the same information. But the one person terribly hurt, the suspect, this all happening at 7:30 in the morning, just as everyone is coming to work. Everybody's moving around, and, arguably this is the most congested part of the city on any given day. This is where everybody's taking the subway. This is just off of Times Square, just a block off of Times Square, the heart of the city where the buses come in, above ground, below ground, that maze of subway trains going through, and that is where this explosion happened. Once it happened, people started moving out of Port Authority. I got here, people were screaming explosion. There was an explosion, move out of the area, move out of the area, and working with police who were saying the same thing. And the one person who was terribly hurt, that suspect who's been taken into custody. And I was hearing you say, Charlene, I had not heard that here, but hearing that he is so terribly hurt, he could succumb. He could die from his injuries. But obviously a lot of questions for him. We still don't know what kind of explosion this was, as is protocol. The search is on immediately for a second explosion. Sometimes there is a second incendiary device, something else that might go on and help people who are actually rushing to rush in and help people. But nothing has been found. So we're just waiting at this point. All of the streets completely closed down. Haven't seen anybody walking for a long time, for about an hour. But clearly this happened in an area where the most people are on any given day moving through the city, the heart of the city. And we will be bringing you the very latest information. There's going to be a news conference soon on how this suspect is doing. A couple of the people who were trying to move out of the area were hurt as well. And then a Port Authority officer was hurt in all of this evacuation as well. No second device, one explosion from what police believe was a pipe bomb at 7:30 this morning as this city moved around in possibly the most crowded part of the city, the heart of the city, just a block off of Times Square here at 42nd and 8th at Port Authority. I'm going to send it back to you in the studio. As soon as we get any information on this news conference, we will bring it to you.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. And as the city tries to move forward after literally being shut down, quite some chaos in the Times Square area. We are trying to get you around this as well. We do have Heather. Heather O'Rourke has been standing by with the very latest on traffic.
Yeah, and Charlene, what I'd like to do is just show you a map. My traffic maps can pick up where the massive delays are, and we are seeing that just below Central Park and right near where the Lincoln Tunnel is, it's all red. Your cross streets are completely red. That means that they are jam-packed with traffic. So let's go back over to some live shots, and I just want to talk to you about some of the roads that are closed, and a lot of the roads are closed. And you heard what Michelle was saying. There's barely any people in that area because you can't get into that area. So no cars are allowed to exit from the FDR Drive from 59th Street to 42nd Street. So I'm getting some texts from friends and acquaintances saying, well, I work on the Upper West Side, or I work here, or I work there. Which way should I go? My advice to you, don't go. Stay where you are. Why deal with these headaches? You cannot even exit the FDR Drive between 59th Street and 42nd Street. We also have West Street subject to closure, 57th Street, and that would take you down into 42nd Street. So you're not safe there either as far as commuting is concerned. Now 14th Street, 23rd Street, 42nd Street closed down river to river. 57th Street, that's closed down at 9th Avenue. 43rd Street, you're going to find closures between 9th and 8th. 8th Avenue, you're going to find closures as well. Subways. That's another option that most people want to take. You want to take a subway? That's not going to happen because you have so many suspensions on our subways. The 1, 2, 3, NQ, RW, and 7 trains bypassing Times Square, 42nd Street. AC and E trains are bypassing 42nd Street Port Authority Bus Terminal. There's no shuttle. The S shuttle, that is suspended both directions. No B train service between Bedford Park Boulevard and Brighton Beach in both directions. E trains are stopping along the F line between 36th Street Queens and West 4th Street Washington Square. So again, once you get into the city, really not going to get anywhere fast. Charlene, over to you.
Heather, thank you. We want to get right to ABC's Pierre Thomas. He is in Washington, but he has the very latest on this current investigation. Pierre?
Well, right now we know that the President of the United States, the Attorney General, and Homeland Security officials have been briefed on it. Their information is similar to what you've been reporting. One male suspect apparently detonated some sort of device. Limited injuries so far, which law enforcement officials are extremely thankful for. But right now there's great concern, given that we're in the midst of the holiday season, that this could portend for something else coming forward. No information on anyone claiming responsibility for this incident so far. But like I said, law enforcement now on full tilt and alert.
All right. Thank you. ABC's Pierre Thomas. joining us now. Thank you so much for that update. And that is very concerning to hear. Something else could be brewing. That is what they are investigating right now. We are learning that the number of injuries has moved to 4 injuries. We believe the suspect is one of those 4. The suspect we're learning more and more about, a man who is in his 20s, someone who lives in Brooklyn from Bangladesh, came to this country 7 years ago. We're hoping he survives what we're told is a severe injury. He's at Bellevue Hospital right now. Lots and lots of questions for him as this investigation continues, as they continue to sweep that general area of Times Square, Port Authority, for any secondary devices, just as protocol and just what is part of the investigation. We want to go back to our chopper, Shannon. She was just reporting for us, and we're going to send it back to you, Shannon.
Yeah, and Charlene, we continue to monitor the situation from high above the city here. You're looking down once again at the intersection of 42nd Street and 8th Avenues. Now, we mentioned that a lot of secondary closures were going to come into place. Heather just went down an entire list of closures throughout the city, but the reason for some of the ones that were further away was to allow the emergency crews to get to where they needed to be. So some of the closures have in fact changed. We mentioned that 12th Avenue was shut down between 57th and 42nd Street, or at least subject to closure. It appears that that is no longer subject to closure. In addition, your 2A streets that go east and west across the city, 14th, 23rd, and 34th Street, they were all subject to closure as well to allow the emergency crews to get into the scene. They have since been reopened. What is not going to change, and likely not going to change anytime soon, you've got those closures on the FDR Drive, not letting people exit off at 59th Street down to 42nd Street. That will likely stay in place because they're trying to alleviate the gridlock conditions that are sure to arise through this area. Now keep in mind, think of the perfect traffic storm that happened today. There was an incendiary device inside a subway station at a major hub for the Port Authority bus terminal where the emergency crews had to respond from the ground and from street level. So this effectively took out so many means of transportation throughout the city on a Monday morning, right in the meat of the rush hour, and that is why this is going to be so bad for traffic now. As we've been mentioning, Michelle's been on the ground, Kimberly has been on the ground, really in the meat of the hub of the activity, right at 42nd Street and 8th Avenue is where Michelle is, and even she says everything is sort of quieted down. It seems like the emergency response has simmered down slightly now that they have the suspect in custody. They do not believe that there are any other devices in this scenario. So now it's just a matter of wrapping things up, seeing what damage is done, and searching for any other devices just as a precaution. They are doing all of they're checking off their boxes to make sure that they have the area secured before they're able to open it up to people. So your secondary streets are starting to reopen, but again, far away from the scene. We are going to see that 8th Avenue is going to remain shut down, and in fact, I'll bring the camera out and show you the closure point because 8th Avenue is shut down at 34th Street, and that's also where you're going to see a lot of pedestrian activity because all the pedestrians are being kept off the sidewalks in and around 8th Avenue and 42nd Street as well. So you can see that police are here shutting things down at 34th Street. That 8th Avenue closure is now going to take you all the way up to Columbus Circle. We've been watching it over the last hour or so, and they are allowing some crosstown traffic through, but 8th Avenue itself, it's just a sea of police and fire department activity. You've got the Port Authority police there. You've got the bomb squad. So any activity you see on 8th Avenue is likely related to the response to this bomb that went off at 42nd Street and 8th Avenue inside the subway system. So what you need to know in terms of the subways, because this is likely not going to change anytime soon either, what is being affected is that there are several lines bypassing the Times Square station, and they include the NQRSW 1, 2, 3, and 7 train. I think Heather said it best when she said there's only about 3 subways that aren't affected by this bypass. So with the subways being affected, the streets being closed throughout the Midtown area, and Port Authority buses having to park at 10th Avenue and 40th Street, New Jersey Transit buses now being picked up at Newark and Secaucus, where you have to hop on a PATH train, and that PATH train is going to bring you right into the middle of this chaos. We are expecting that these closures, especially in and around 8th Avenue and 42nd Street will be with us for several hours to come as police and emergency officials continue to do what they need to do. Again, we've got the bomb squad here, and now officials are on the scene as well, ascertaining exactly what happened. Somehow, miraculously, limited injuries being reported at this point. 4 injuries, I believe, total. One of them, and the worst injury, was to the suspect himself, who was here from Bangladesh, moved to Brooklyn 7 years ago. So, of course, he is in very bad shape at the hospital. Unclear on if he's going to survive the injuries, but you can bet police want to find out exactly what happened and why this happened. What is also unclear at this point is whether or not this was the targeted area. So, again, they would really like to speak to the suspect and find out what the motivation was behind this attack, but miraculously, not very many injuries here. The worst part of this now is going to be recuperating from these massive closures through the area, and they are truly massive. To see 8th Avenue shut down for this long of a stretch. The one other thing that has changed, and that's really on either side of 8th Avenue, 7th and 9th Avenues have both been reopened through 42nd Street. So that is some good news. You're starting to see things kind of scale back, and the closure points getting smaller and smaller, but the effect is already here. People are going to have a difficult time once they get into the city, if they even try to get in. We recommend that you don't even try it today. This is throughout the Times Square area, and keep in mind this is a hub, especially during the holiday season. People are coming in and shopping, they're looking at the windows. This is a terrible time for something like this to happen. Maybe that was part of the plan. We don't know. All of those questions are going to be answered in the coming days and hours. But right now it is still a nightmare with 8th Avenue shut down and all of the streets around 42nd Street. You can just assume that they will be subject to closure. Our subways are likely going to be affected for hours to come. So it's a really great day if you were thinking of not going to work today or thinking of not going into the city. This is the day to stay home. Shirlene,
and Shannon,
back to you in the studio.
You've been touching on this, and so did Pierre Thomas. Just the timing. The timing is very crucial and very key here. This being the Christmas season, the concern for those who are investigating this. First off, what you were saying, if that was even the intended target, but could there be other targets brewing? Could there be other areas that will be of concern? So obviously that investigation will continue. Thank you for that. We want to send it now out to our reporter, Jim Dolan. He is live there on the scene as well for us. Jim?
Yeah, we're ready. So just to give you an idea of what's going on, we are being escorted by police right now as we're talking live on television. We're being escorted by police onto a news conference that's going to take place in just a few minutes down at 42nd and 7th Avenue. We were over at 42nd and 8th Avenue. I can tell you a lot of people out there, trying to get to work, just trying to get places here in the city. Very crowded. Normally it's more crowded now because of so many evacuated areas. So you can see 42nd Street is empty except for an awful lot of police officers. Place still lined with police. They also have canine units going door to door, making sure that there aren't any other devices that could go off and hurt people. So far they have not found anything, but that is what's going on here. You can see an awful lot of police presence here. That obviously will continue through the morning until they find out exactly what happened. We're going to go down to this news conference. We will learn a bit about what happened, about what they know about what happened. And when we do, we'll get it back to you guys. Reporting live from Times Square, Jim Dolan, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
All right, Jim, we're going to let you get to that news conference because we definitely want to get that live as soon as it happens. I do have a little bit more background information as we wait for that news conference to begin. Background information on the suspect in particular. We are learning that he is 27 years old. He lives in Brooklyn, originally from Bangladesh. He has been in the country for about 7 years. Now, in terms of today, he was found alive. He was transported to Bellevue Hospital. It appears that he was wearing some kind of a low-level explosive device, and that is when he was stripped of his clothing to have that that device removed. Based on video recovered by investigators and other media, so far it looks like he was acting alone. Obviously, that is what police are investigating. They're investigating, trying to piece this together, trying to see if there are any ties to any terrorism networks. But for right now, it appears he was acting alone. This suspect, one of 4 people who was injured as a result of this possible pipe bomb explosion at Port Authority on 42nd and 8th Avenue. This incident happening around 7:30 this morning at the height of the morning commute. So very frightening, but we are happy to report that there were very limited injuries. The president, the attorney general have been briefed. The mayor and the governor, as we've been telling you, is about to start up a news conference in any moment now, and we have all of our reporters heading to that. We're all waiting for that just to find out what other information can be shared. But as we've been telling you, this entire city is pretty much shut down because of it. A lot of people are not going into Manhattan, not going to work as a result of this, because it's hard to get into the city. Shannon's been showing us what she can from the sky. Shannon.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're sort of taking you around because the closures have changed in the last maybe 20 minutes or so. So I'm bringing the camera around to give you an idea of what you have in store for you. You are looking down at 9th Avenue now, and you can see traffic is now moving towards you, which has changed. They had 9th Avenue shut down for a while. 8th Avenue remains shut down at 34th Street. So you can see right here in front of Penn Station, this is where the sort of meat of the chaos happens in terms of the people that are trying to commute through this area, because they get to 34th Street and the cops are there telling you either go left or right because you're not coming straight. The only vehicles that are making it straight through that are the emergency crews. Now, this closure on 8th Avenue takes you all the way up through 42nd Street and to Columbus Circle, but we're going to stop for you around 42nd Street to show you that this is where most of your police and fire department and bomb squad activity is. Port Authority police there, the fire department. EMS has less here now. As Michelle was mentioning, when this first happened, everybody responded. Police came. Every ambulance they could spare came. Fortunately, we did not need many of those ambulances, very limited in terms of the injuries to civilians in the area. But this is where the hub of it is. This is where they are staging and getting everything ready. So 8th Avenue remains shut down for a very long stretch between Columbus Circle and 34th Street. But we're going to bring you over because we had heard some changes as well to these 9th Avenue side, and you can see that 9th Avenue, in fact, is moving again. We've got traffic flowing again on 9th Avenue through 42nd Street. So they're starting to scale back on the closures through the area, but despite the fact that some of these streets are open, having 8th Avenue completely shut down and a lot of your cross traffic shut down as well, the gridlock conditions remain throughout the area. And keep in mind, we've been learning a little bit about the suspect, and we're starting to piece together information, but priority number one for the police, for the bomb squad, for all the emergency officials responding is to make sure that everyone in New York City is safe, that this was an isolated incident, and that's something that they are going to take their time ascertaining. They have a protocol that they go through, and they are going to go through it step by step to make sure that there are no other incendiary devices in the area. And they also, this is, Shirlene, something that you had touched on for quite some time, is that what was the targeted area? Was it, in fact, where it went off, and was the timing significant? Obviously, this went off at 7:30 this morning in the meat of the rush hour. It seems like it was timed to do maximum damage, and yet only a few minor injuries. Here, it happened during the holiday season. Was that significant? These are all questions that the police department has to figure out before they can get things back to normal. So even once these streets reopen, remember, we've got closures on the subways as well that affect the N, Q, R, S, W, 1, 2, 3, and 7 lines. The shuttle service, the AC&E, all affected, all of them bypassing Times Square and the Port Authority bus terminal. But even once things get back to normal, you can obviously expect a heightened police presence, at least in Times Square and obviously throughout the subway system. Shirlene, back to you.
Thank you for that, Shannon. And obviously, when something like this happens in such a main artery, a main transportation hub like Times Square. This affects everyone. Everyone is on high alert as a result of this. Even if this is just an isolated incident, this is not something that we need to be concerned about for, possible future events. It's still something that everyone is concerned about. We just got in information from Nassau County Executive Ed Mangano. He sent out a report saying Nassau County Police are monitoring the situation there and continue to intensify patrols in all areas of concern. We are in constant contact with federal, state, and local authorities. So that is something from the Office of Nassau County Executive Ed Mangano. We do have a team of reporters on the scene. We want to send it out to, I'm being told Derek Waller is live there on the street for us. Derek?
Yeah, Charlene, good morning. We are standing on 42nd Street, a closed 42nd Street, as you can see, cops all the way down. We're at 8th Avenue. You're looking east toward 7th Avenue, where there are a lot of police officers out here, obviously. And on the other corner by 8th Avenue, they're about to have a briefing. You can see there are a ton of media out here, reporters, cameras, because the police are supposed to hold a media briefing in just a few minutes. That is what we're getting ready for here right now. I can tell you that otherwise, besides this closed area, you go up to 7th Avenue, Broadway, it looks like another day in Manhattan. You have just crowded streets, people trying to get to work, trying to get about their business. Let's get out of the way here. Excuse me, there's a car coming. But yeah, outside this area, it's a pretty normal situation. People seem like they're trying to get back to their regular business. But right here at 42nd and 8th Avenue, this remains closed. That's obviously where the situation happened earlier this morning. We are awaiting police to brief us about exactly what's going on. That should be happening in a few minutes. But obviously, you can see the massive police presence out here and also the massive media presence. So we're going to stay out here and try to get some more information. And
Derek,
and bring you that as go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. It's that juxtaposition, that interesting, the eerie quiet of the area that you're in right now, as opposed to the other side of the city that is, like nothing happened, how upbeat it is. You being able to kind of get a sense of that, it must be interesting for you to see.
It's absolutely very interesting to see. We were coming in from New Jersey. Obviously, if you're watching our show this morning, we were covering breaking news over there. We had to make our way over here, which was a little hectic. But once we did get out of the car, the streets were what you would normally expect on 7th Avenue on a Monday morning. Very busy, lots of people just trying to get to work. Once you walked over to 8th Avenue, 42nd Street is where you saw kind of this commotion and streets blocked. But once you leave this immediate area, you may not realize exactly what's going on. So it's very interesting to see that. Obviously, you're looking at a live look at 8th Avenue right now at 42nd Street outside the Port Authority bus terminal, where there's a heavy police presence. You can see the avenue is blocked to traffic. And we are awaiting a press briefing shortly from police. Charlene?
Yep, and you are on the scene there, waiting to get the very latest from the mayor and the governor, who are planning to speak very shortly. Thank you for that, Derek. And as we continue to wait, because they are going to be speaking in any moment, and we're going to bring it to you live as soon as it does. But in the meantime, we are getting more information about this suspect, slowly but surely. We now know his name. From what we have learned, his name is Ola Akayed. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Ola Akayed. His address, he has a Brooklyn address. We're seeing, it looks like 1689 East 48th Street in Brooklyn. His date of birth, 3/25/90, 27 years old. We are working on getting a photo of him shortly. And as we continue to wait for that, that is the very latest on the suspect, somebody who lives in Brooklyn, originally from Bangladesh, has been in this country, we've learned, for about 7 years. And as we've been telling you, he was alive when he was transported to Bellevue Hospital. He was wearing a low-level explosive device, and he had to be stripped of his clothing to remove that device, and he was injured severely as a result of it. He is one of 4 people who was injured. We believe that he is of all of them, the most seriously injured, and we are closely watching his condition and hoping that he survives, because there are a lot of questions. But what we have learned so far, at least based on video recovered by investigators and other media, is that it appears he was acting alone, because that obviously in this investigation is what they want to know. Does he have any ties to any terrorism networks? What was his motivation? Why this timing? Why 7:30 in the morning at Port Authority during the Christmas season? What was the motivation there? So lots and lots of questions. If we can just take a look at what's happening in terms of traffic, that is the big story that we're dealing with right now. We want to send it back to Heather.
Hi, Charlene. Yeah, we do have some changes that we're going to go over, and just some updates for you. Now, 12th Street, you heard Shannon Sohn saying this from the helicopter. 12th Street has been reopened. 14th, 23rd, 34th Streets also have been reopened, but the FDR Drive, cars are still not allowed to exit from 59th Street to 42nd Street. You have Midtown closures in place, 7th to 9th Avenue, 45th to 40th Streets. New Jersey Transit buses to and from Port Authority will divert to Secaucus and Newark Penn for rail service into New York. And then the exclusive bus lane that takes you into the Lincoln Tunnel, it's now closed because of police activity as well. So bus route 126, there's no bus route 126. All Hoboken customers will be taken to Hoboken Terminal for service on path and ferry service, and New York Waterways cross honoring New Jersey Transit bus tickets. Now, as far as our subways, we've been telling you about this all morning long. 1, 2, 3 NQR, W and 7 trains, they're bypassing Times Square, 42nd Street. A and E trains are bypassing 42nd Street Port Authority bus terminal. And there is no shuttle service, the S train, the S shuttle, that is suspended in both directions. No B train service between Bedford Park Boulevard and Brighton Beach. No C train service between Euclid Avenue and 168th Street. E trains are bypassing along the F line. They're stopping along the F line, rather, between Jackson Heights, Roosevelt Avenue, and West 4th Street, Washington Street. Some northbound F trains are stopping along the Q line, or the G line, rather, from Bergen Street to Court Street. Then on the E line, Jackson, Roosevelt Avenue. L train service between 8th and 6th. There is no L train service. M trains are not running between Delancey, Essex Street, Forest Hills, 71st Street. So these changes are all because of this ongoing police activity in Times Square. Queens Midtown Tunnel, as you come inbound, there is one lane closed down. So they're keeping that one lane closed down. I am assuming, I'm venturing to guess, that that one lane is closed down to allow for emergency vehicles to come into Manhattan. 8th Avenue, you heard Shannon saying this, Columbus Circle to 34th Street, and that is closed down. We are also, I just got some news that the bus terminal has been reopened. So that is some good news for us. That could relieve some pressure for commuters. Buses are being rerouted. New Jersey Transit buses rerouted to 10th and 40th. And then we have New Jersey Transit buses rerouted to Newark and Secaucus. Path, Hoboken to 33rd, and Journal Square to 33rd. You also have a delay there as well. So that bus terminal, we're hearing just the upper level has been reopened on the Port Authority bus terminal. But again, as far as trying to drive into Manhattan, not a great idea. Once you get into Manhattan, if your plan is to commute to Midtown, it's going to be virtually impossible to get there via subway, via cab. The buses are all rerouted. We do have lots of buses rerouted as a result of that. So just keep that one in mind. If you're thinking you can try to get around this, it may not be possible. You may find yourself tangled up in a lot of traffic nightmares at this point. Charlene,
all right,
back
Heather,
over to you.
Thank you for that update. Again, we continue to wait for a briefing from police, the mayor, the governor, with the very latest on this incident. But again, this happened at 7:30 in the morning. A possible pipe bomb explosion at Port Authority, 42nd and 8th Avenue, at the height of the morning commute. Very, very frightening timing. This is during the Christmas season. If we can just stop and think about the people who were there in that moment, within that vicinity, how frightening it must have been for them. We're waiting to try to get people who were in that area. We did hear from one woman who said, quote, "If I didn't believe in God, I believe in God today." She is a woman who was within the area. She heard the bang, saw the smoke, and she ran. So complete chaos this morning. And now this is the scene as we take a look from high above. very quiet now, fortunately. One of 4 people injured was that suspect who is in the hospital still as we speak. We want to get the very latest on that. Let's send it on out to Candace McCowan, who is on the scene. Candace.
Yeah, we are here in front of Bellevue Hospital. It's quite an intense scene here. They have heavy security here on hand. Let me show you the front of the hospital. But also, if you look down the side entrance, once this ambulance moves here, you can see the heavy amount of NYPD officers that are here. We saw many of these officers responding. This is typically an open entrance, but you see an officer guarding it. They're not letting many vehicles down there unless they're absolutely necessary at this time. But obviously, heavy security. They're also preventing anyone from parking in front of the hospital right now. Again, this is where we know that 27-year-old suspect was taken, that he lives in Brooklyn. Again, like you've been saying, originally from Bangladesh. He's been in the country for about 7 years, and he was alive when he was transported here to Bellevue Hospital. We understand he was wearing that low-level explosive device and was stripped of his clothes to remove it before he was brought here to the hospital. Again, they're saying non-life-threatening injuries, but they have heavy security here in front of Bellevue Hospital right now at this time as they try to work the situation and try to keep the security tight here.
Okay, Candace, I'm sorry to interrupt you. That news conference we've been waiting for is about to begin right now. The police commissioner there, you see the governor, you see the mayor. Let's listen in.
All right, good morning. At approximately 7:20 this morning, we had a terror-related incident in the subway in the passageway between 42nd and 8th and 42nd and 7th. The governor's going to speak, the mayor's going to speak. I'm going to give you some more details. Dan Nigro is going to talk about some of the minor injuries, and then Joe Loda is going to talk about subway service. Governor?
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning to everyone. The first news this morning was obviously very frightening and disturbing. When you hear about a bomb in the subway station, which is in many ways one of our worst nightmares, the reality turns out better than the initial expectation and fear. You had a number of law enforcement agencies that did a fantastic job. The NYPD, the PAPD, the Port Authority Police, the MTA Police, they were all on it. You see behind us representatives of all the agencies coordinated. The Assistant Director of the FBI, Bill Sweeney, is here. So everyone worked together. There was an explosion. The police commissioner will go over the details. It was an effectively low-tech device. There were several injuries, we hope minor, and it was handled extraordinarily well. There was a disruption in train service and bus service while a sweep was being done. That's all being restored now, as you'll hear from Joe Loda. The subway service, except at 42nd Street, is being restored. The Port Authority bus terminal is reopened, so buses will be running once again. This is New York. The reality is that we are a target by many who would like to make a statement against democracy, against freedom. We have the Statue of Liberty in our harbor, and that makes us an international target. We understand that. With the internet now, anyone can go on the internet and download garbage and vileness on how to put together an amateur-level explosive device. And that is the reality that we live with. The counter-reality is that this is New York, and we all pitch together, and we are a savvy people, and we keep our eyes open, and that's what See Something, Say Something is all about. And we have the best law enforcement on the globe, and we're all working together extraordinarily well. I want to thank the mayor and the mayor's office for doing a great job this morning. And we will go forward, and we'll go forward together. All the service will resume. Let's go back to work. We're not going to allow them to disrupt us. That's exactly what they want. And that is exactly what they're not going to get. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Governor. Let's be clear, as New Yorkers, our lives revolve around the subways. When we hear of an attack in the subway, it's incredibly unsettling. And let's be also clear, this was an attempted terrorist attack. Thank God the perpetrator did not achieve his ultimate goals. Thank God our first responders were there so quickly to address the situation, to make sure people were safe. Thank God the only injuries, as we know at this point, were minor. But I agree 100% with the governor's point that choice of New York is always for a reason, because we're a beacon to the world, and we actually show that a society of many faiths and many backgrounds can work, and we show that democracy can work, and our enemies want to undermine that. The terrorists want to undermine that, so they yearn to attack New York City. But New York City is blessed with the finest law enforcement, and what our first responders did today was another example, the ability to address the situation quickly, contain it, and make sure people are safe. Let me just say, it's very important for my fellow New Yorkers to know there are no additional known incidents at this time. There are no additional known activities. We will wait for a fuller investigation, of course, by the NYPD and the MTA police and Port Authority police and FBI. But at this point in time, all we know of is one individual who, thank God, was unsuccessful in his aims. There are also no credible and specific threats against New York City at this time. But we will give you more information, of course, as the investigation unfolds. The first responders responded brilliantly. Now the mission of the NYPD is to secure all major transit hubs and major sites in this city. So you'll see expanded NYPD presence today all over the city. New Yorkers have come to understand when you see our specialized forces, when you see those long guns and those highly trained officers, that's something that should be reassuring to you. It means NYPD is on full alert and out in force, and that means you're safe. Finally, want to say, the governor invoked that phrase, we can't say it enough times, when you see something, say something. This is the difference maker. We've seen it time and again. When an everyday New Yorker sees something that doesn't make sense, hears something, sees a package, gets a feeling that something's wrong, don't hold it to yourself. Tell a police officer. They are the ones who can take the information and act on it. It's so important to speak up because you could be saving many lives by doing so. I'll finish by saying this. This is the most resilient place on earth. We've proven it time and time again. We proved it just over a month ago. We proved it on 9/11. We're going to prove it again today. The terrorists will not win. We're going to keep being New Yorkers. Let's get back to work. Thank you.
All right, these are the preliminary facts. So it just happened a couple hours ago, so you have to understand these are preliminary facts. At approximately 7:20, in a below-ground walkway, which connects the IND line at 4-2 and 8th Avenue with the IRT line at 4-2 and 7, and that's the shuttle at Times Square and the 1, 2, and 3 train. Police were called to a reported explosion. Responding units found an injured 27-year-old male. We've identified him as Ayed Ullah, Akayed Ullah. He had burns and wounds to his body. Preliminary investigation at the scene indicates this male was wearing an improvised low-tech explosive device attached to his body. He intentionally detonated that device. Looks like there are 3 other people in the immediate area also sustained minor injuries, but Dan Nigro is going to talk about that. The subject was placed in custody and transported to Bellevue Hospital. Immediate police response to the scene included members of the Transit Bureau, Emergency Service Division, Bomb Squad, Counterterrorism, MTA police, state troopers, and the FBI's Joint Terrorist Task Force. In addition, the NYPD Strategic Response Group and Critical Response Command were assigned to other key transportation hubs in other locations throughout the city as a precautionary measure. This incident was captured on transit system video. A further review and interview of witnesses is underway. A thorough background investigation into Eyewitness is being conducted by the Joint Terrorist Task Force. We are asking anyone who may have any information about this individual or incident to call the terror hotline, and that's 888 NYC SAFE. Just as the governor said, and as the mayor said, we are New Yorkers. We don't live in fear. If you see something that doesn't look right, you have an obligation to come forward, call 911, flag down a cop, and give us a chance to investigate it. Dan Nigro is going to talk about the injuries now. Dan?
Thank you, Jim. As Police Commissioner mentioned, the perpetrator detonated the device. It caused burns to the hands and the abdomen, also lacerations. Our EMS personnel removed the perpetrator to Bellevue Hospital, where they're being treated now. 3 other people that were in proximity of the explosion removed themselves. 2 of them took themselves to Mount Sinai West, 1 to Mount Sinai Queens, all with minor injuries that are consistent with being in the area of the explosion, that is ringing in the ears and headache. So we have 3 minor injuries to people that were in that corridor and serious injuries to the perpetrator. That's it at this time.
Thank you. As the commissioners have both said, and the mayor and the governor both said earlier this morning, we received an alert of the explosion that happened in the tunnel, and immediately the MTA and the Transit Authority shut down the lines on the 8th Avenue line, the A, the C, the E. Many of them were rerouted. I will tell you right now, they are all back. The only disruption we have right now is that on both the 7th Avenue line as well as the 8th Avenue line, we're bypassing the Times Square 42nd Street corridor, and also the shuttle between Grand Central and Times Square is currently shut down. We expect it to be back up and normal by this evening's rush hour. I do want to also state that on November 6th, just a month or so ago, we had a tabletop exercise with the NYPD to coordinate our efforts in the event that something like this ever happened. And the result of that was today, in less than 2 hours, we are back totally up to speed and getting our passengers around. I want to especially thank not only the NYPD, but also our passengers and our customers for their patience. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take some questions. The question is did the subject utter anything before he detonated the device? Part of the investigation.
Commissioner, where was the device located? Potential target for years. I don't know if Joe can address this or the governor, but you typically have police where you don't see a cop. Does this point out a potential security weakness and something that might be addressed going forward?
All right, the question is that transit seems to be an apparent target, and are there any weaknesses downstairs? Listen, we have almost 3,000 transit cops that work in the subway system every day. We have the Strategic Response Group, we have the Critical Response Command. All parts of the system are patrolled.
Commissioner, yes. Can you describe, is it a belt, a backpack, or a vest? A little more about the device. And in the video, what does he look like he's doing? Does he look like he's waiting for a big crowd to gather? What is he doing?
All right, the question was, what does the device look like, and what was the subject doing before he detonated? John Miller can talk about that.
Without getting into too many specifics, the device is based on a pipe bomb. It was affixed to his person with a combination of Velcro and zip ties. The bomb squad is in the process now, along with the FBI Special Agent bomb technicians, of processing that crime scene with others. They're going to gather up those pieces, and we'll have a better idea of what the device was put together with and what was inside it.
John, all right, hold on. Yeah, we're not going to go into that right now. Dave, hold on, right here. Juliet, hold on, one at a time. Hold on, Juliet.
Did he detonate himself, and was this done purposely at
That's Juliet. The question is, did he detonate it himself? In the video, you see him walking down the corridor. That's part of the investigation. We don't know that to be a fact just yet. Right behind Juliet. We're working on that right now. Yeah, right here.
Is there a reason why we're seeing the incident from a few weeks weeks ago, this incident, more now, and we've gone years and years and years in New York since 9/11 with nothing, and now all of a sudden it seems like we are seeing more incidents. Is there a reason why?
There have been incidents, starting with 9/11, but I'll let John talk about that a little bit. All right, sure.
So, as you all know, since the World Trade Center bombing of 1993, and well before that, New York City, as the media capital of the world, has been a target of terrorist attacks in the past. There was the World Trade Center bombing of 1993, the 9/11 attacks, and in the course of post-9/11 world, as you're aware, there's also been approximately 26 plots that we can talk about that have been prevented through intelligence, investigation, and interdiction. As you know, there was the Times Square bombing, which failed to detonate. There was the Chelsea bombing from September 17th of 16, and then there's this incident. So clearly, due to an immense effort that is put into this by the FBI, the NYPD, our intelligence and counterterrorism people, and everybody else, it's an all-hands effort. We have prevented a significant number of plots, a significant number of attacks, but this is a fact of life. Whether you're in New York or London or Paris, the question is, can it happen here? And the answer is, it can happen anywhere.
Did he claim any connection to ISIS?
All right, hold on. Right here in the front row.
Did he claim any connection to ISIS? There was a tweet.
He did make statements, but the question is, did he claim connection to ISIS? He did make statements, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Right behind you. Hold on, right behind you.
Where exactly did the device go off in the passageway?
It's at 4-2 and 8. He's walking eastbound to 4-2 and 7. So it's from this corner to Times Square underneath. If you've taken the subway, you know what the passageway I'm talking about.
Where?
All right, hold on. In the back? Yeah.
A subway system of this size runs 24 hours, 7 days a week. I know you say you've got it all covered. How does this possibly have it covered, given its size and scope?
All right, the question is, the size of the subway system is massive. How can we have that how can we have that system covered? Listen, this is going to take, there's 6 million people that ride the train every day. It's going to take everybody to have their eyes open, pay attention to what's going on. If you see something that makes you uncomfortable, make that phone call or talk to a cop. Give us a chance to investigate. In the back. No, we don't know. The question is, was it intentional, the spot where he detonated the explosive device? We don't know that yet. Right here, Miles. Yeah, we're not going to. The question is that are we at different locations in Brooklyn? I'm not going to go into that right now. This is part of what we do. We're investigating his background now to see what addresses he have, and we'll fully investigate him and the locations where he lives. All right, listen. We're going to come back to you later on with some more information. Thank you very much.
Right, thanks, folks. Thank you, folks. We'll get you an update as things become available. All right. Thank you.
I'm David Navarro with Shirley Ellicott, and you're listening to the state and local officials briefing the public on the latest on a low-tech pipe bomb explosion in the subway hub under the Port Authority bus terminal in Times Square. The mayor, police commissioner calling it an attempted terror attack. However, the mayor going on to say at this time there is no credible ongoing threat. Now, this happened, he said, at 7:20 this morning, the height of the morning rush hour. Below ground walkway between 42nd and 8th and 42nd and 7th. Governor Cuomo saying when the news first came in, it was frightening to hear, but he was relieved it was not the disaster it could have been. In the end, at least 4 people have been hurt, all non-life-threatening injuries, including the suspect, a 27-year-old man living in Brooklyn who came to this country from Bangladesh 7 years ago. He was injured in the arm and torso from the bomb when it went off in his arm and leg and he was holding it, and he's been taken to Bellevue. Now, he has made statements, but police are not saying at this time what he had to say as their investigation continues. They have named him. They've named him as Akied Ullah. They say he was carrying some kind of an improvised low-tech device, a pipe bomb type device. and that he intentionally detonated the device attached by Velcro and zip ties to his bodies. And then in that explosion, the 3 other people that were nearby were hurt, and again, they are suffering non-life-threatening injuries. At this time, the FBI, the Joint Terror Task Force investigating, and they are reviewing MTA video that they have at the scene. The president has been briefed. Upper level of the bus terminal, meanwhile, has been reopened at a time that was closed as the investigation and many questions arose as to the severity of what was going on. And we're talking about over 225,000 people turn a day to the Port Authority. This was a major shutdown. However, as I said, the upper level bus terminal has just been reopened. I'm being told at this point the Port Authority bus terminal, the rest of it is remaining closed, and train service still being redirected around the Times Square area and stops. There have been many street closures as a result all around Times Square as the investigation and many first responders turn up at the scene. The MTA head says he hopes to have everything back up and running again by this evening's rush.
But the takeaway here from the mayor, the governor, the commissioner, no credible threat at this time. The NYPD is on full alert. This was an attempted terrorist attack. The suspect, one of 4 people, as you just mentioned, injured. We do have a team of reporters who have been there on the scene. We want to send it out live now to Eyewitness News reporter Derek Waller, who is on the scene. Derek.
Hey, Charlene, good morning to you. Obviously, the headline this morning that was a intentional terrorist attack, according to Mayor de Blasio. That just wrapped up a few minutes ago behind me. I want to show you a little bit of the scene right here, where there's still an intense security presence. We have, obviously, the K-9 units out here, FBI, state and federal authorities, local authorities. This 8th Avenue continues to be closed to traffic, though they just opened it back up to some pedestrian traffic. So that is an update now. I want to show you, though, they mentioned in the press conference exactly where this happened. This is 42nd Street and 8th Avenue. It was underneath in that tunnel between 42nd and 8th Avenue and then 7th Avenue. Anyone's ever transferred from an ACE line over to like a 123 train, you've walked through that tunnel to give you an idea of exactly where that attempted attack happened this morning. But again, the scene right now, the street is open to pedestrian traffic, as you can see, but an intense security presence remains out here outside the Port Authority bus terminal on 8th Avenue, where we were just allowed to move over to a few minutes ago. So I know that buses are supposed to start coming back through here very shortly, but that is the latest here, Shirley, and I'm going to send it back to you for now.
All right. Thank you for that, Derek. The very latest there. This again happening at 7:20 this morning. A low-tech device, as Governor Cuomo called it, went off. The injuries, fortunately, were minor, except for the suspect, Akayed Ullah, 27 years old, lives in Brooklyn, came from Bangladesh 7 years ago. Obviously, police have a lot of questions for this man, but how they handled this situation was extraordinary. But obviously, this has caused a lot of disruptions on the commute, train and bus service. We're all waiting for that to be restored.
Yeah, again, and you mentioned it, the police commissioner just talking about the fantastic job that the NYPD and the Port Authority Police Department responding so quickly to this incident happening at the height of the rush hour, one of the busiest areas in New York City at 7:20 in the morning, below ground, a walkway between 42nd, 8th Avenue, 42nd and 7th, a low-grade pipe bomb of some sort that he had put together, and he had the police are saying, had intentionally detonated with the idea of harming. They're calling this, without holding back, a terror attack at this time.
We will, of course, keep you updated on this breaking story, because obviously this is going to be a ripple effect for the rest of the day in terms of those people who are trying to get out of the city. Anybody attempting to even get into the city right now, it's probably not the best move, just with how shut down the entire city is as a result of this. So best advice to give you, stay at home if you have that opportunity, if you have that choice to do so, because the city is a rough place to try to get into at this time.
But they are remaining optimistic.
They
MTA
are.
chairman saying he hopes to have everything back up and running at the Port Authority by the evening rush. And of course, we will continue to give you updates throughout the day. And ABC7 NY, that's the best place when we're not on the air that you can continue to check to see what is the latest in terms of the openings and the street closures that are out there. I'm David Navarro. Continue to watch us at Eyewitness News, first at 4 and at noon, of course.